In a kingdom bathed in golden sunlight, there lived a king, wise and just, who ruled with a firm but fair hand. One day, he decided it was time to settle accounts with his servants. The great hall, usually filled with laughter and music, fell silent as the servants were brought before him one by one. The first to be called was a man named Marcus. He had been entrusted with a great deal of the king's wealth, but had managed his affairs poorly. The royal treasurer read from a long scroll, his voice echoing in the vast room. The debt was staggering 10,000 talents. An amount so immense, it was more than a lifetime of wages. It was a sum no ordinary man could ever hope to repay. Marcus fell to his knees, his face pale with fear. He knew the law. He, his wife, and his children would be sold into servitude, and all his possessions seized to cover a fraction of what he owed. The weight of his failure pressed down on him, and tears streamed down his face. He pleaded, his voice trembling, "Be patient with me, and I will pay back everything." The king, looking down from his throne, saw the man's genuine terror and despair. His heart was moved with compassion. The king was known for his justice, but his capacity for mercy was even greater. He leaned forward, and with a voice that was both powerful and kind, he said, "I cancel your debt. All of it. You are free to go." Marcus could hardly believe his ears. 10,000 talents, wiped away in a single breath. He felt a wave of relief, so powerful it almost knocked him over. He stammered his thanks, bowing repeatedly, the weight of the world lifted from his shoulders. He was a new man, given a second chance he never deserved. He ran from the palace, his heart soaring with joy and gratitude, vowing to live a better, more responsible life. As he walked through the bustling marketplace, still dizzy with his good fortune, he saw a familiar face. It was Flavius, a fellow servant who owed him a small amount of money, 100 denarii. It was a tiny sum, barely a day's wage, and nothing compared to the mountain of debt he himself had just been forgiven. But seeing Flavius ignited a strange, dark fire within Marcus. The overwhelming sense of mercy he had just received vanished, replaced by a cold, hard sense of entitlement. He marched up to Flavius, grabbed him by the collar of his tunic, and began to shake him violently. "Pay me back what you owe," he demanded, his voice harsh and unforgiving. Flavius, shocked and terrified, fell to his knees, just as Marcus had done before the king. He used the very same words, his voice pleading, "Be patient with me, and I will pay you back." It was the same desperate plea, the same promise. But Marcus's heart was like stone. He had no patience, no compassion. The memory of the king's incredible mercy had completely faded. He sneered at Flavius, ignoring his cries. Instead of showing the same forgiveness he had received, he had Flavius arrested and thrown into the debtor's prison, a dark and miserable place, to remain there until he could pay back every last coin. The other servants who witnessed this shocking event were horrified. They had seen the king's extraordinary act of grace, and now they saw Marcus's cruel and hypocritical response. They couldn't believe how someone who had been shown such immense mercy could be so utterly merciless to another. Whispering amongst themselves, they decided they had to tell the king what had happened. Back in the palace, the king listened intently as the servants recounted the story. His expression, once so full of compassion, hardened into a storm of righteous anger. He had offered Marcus a clean slate, a chance to start anew, free from the crushing burden of his past. And this is how he repaid that kindness, by throttling a man for a handful of coins. The king immediately sent his guards to find Marcus. When he was dragged back into the great hall, he was no longer the grateful, relieved man who had left just hours before. He was the unforgiving servant, and he trembled not from desperation, but from the cold dread of judgment. The king rose from his throne, his voice thundering through the hall. "You wicked servant," he boomed, "I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you?" Marcus stood speechless. There was nothing he could say. The truth of the king's words hit him like a physical blow. He had been given a gift beyond measure and had thrown it away for the sake of a pittance. He had held a universe of forgiveness in his hands and had chosen to crush a man for a single speck of dust. The king's face was grim. The mercy he had so freely given had been rejected and disrespected. In his anger, he handed Marcus over to the jailers. But this time, it wasn't just to be held until he paid. It was to be tortured until he could pay back everything he owed, the full 10,000 talents. A debt he could never, ever repay. And so, Marcus was led away, his second chance squandered. He was cast into a darkness of his own making, a prison built not of stone and iron, but of his own unforgiving heart. He learned the hard way that the forgiveness we receive is tied to the forgiveness we are willing to give. To be forgiven is a profound gift, but to forgive is how we truly keep that gift alive. The king's mercy was a boundless ocean, but Marcus had chosen to drown in a puddle of his own bitterness. This story serves as a powerful reminder for us all. We have all been forgiven for things far greater than the small offenses we hold against others. Think about the grace you've received in your own life. When someone wrongs you, remember the king. Remember the 10,000 talents and choose mercy, choose forgiveness. Because in the end, the freedom you give to others is the freedom you secure for yourself. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that make you think.